But then it came to the point to where I was drinking 2 dozen beer a day and not getting drunk. And I mean like 2 dozen beer in a course of 4 or 5 hours. You know what I mean? And I was not, yes, I was buzzed, don't get me wrong, but I was not getting drunk. And people started to notice. They start to notice, well, geez, Paul just drank 2 dozen beer and he's still walking fine. Yeah, he could drive, you know what I mean? And I would. And I would do all this stuff. But it started a really bad trait for me. At 22, I got my driver's license. By the age of 25, I've lost my license, but I've been driving since I'm 14 years old. So it just goes to show you guys, you know what I mean? A lot of stuff was on the go, and we never had a care in the world. Like, I would just be driving other people's vehicles as long as it was licensed and insured, man, you know what I mean? We did not get pulled over. And that was the nature of it back then. It's just the way it was. And there was a lot of drinking and driving on the go. And it's, I am not proud of that one bit now. I will never have my driver's license again. I have 3 DUIs and I have 15 driving under suspensions. So I'm at about 30-something years in suspensions, which makes me about 70 years old by the time I would get my license back. And I think it'd be a little bit too late then to be getting your license. But that's just some of the mistakes that I made. And really, these mistakes are affecting me now for the rest of my life. And I didn't think of it then. And of course we were, because we were selfish. We were only thinking about what we wanted to do. But I never thought of it then. What the effect would be later on in life with me. I got locked up at the age of 23. I was out at 24 and a half. And then that was when I met my first wife. And she never had a clue about anything when we first met. She thought I was just a drinker as well. And we were only dating about a month. And I got found in the racking at work. I come unconscious while I was picking parts, and I was about 15, 20 feet in the air, and I never had my harness on. And my buddy noticed that I was just hanging out of a bucket skid, the little ones. So and then he come up and got me and brought me to the hospital. I ended up finding out that my heart stopped is what happened. At that point in time, I was drinking about 326ers a day of Gibson's Finest. I was doing about $600-700 worth of dope, and pretty much smoking anything and everything we possibly can get our hands on. Back then, we never had the fentanyl scares or anything like that. There wasn't none of that stuff out back then like it is now. So it was, thank God it was none of that, because it would have been a really bad world for us, because we weren't even questioning anything we were doing. And I was always that guy. You got dope? Yeah. You get high? Yeah. Come on with it. If you smoke it, snort it, pop it, or drink it, I was that guy. Come on with it. I was the first one to try everything. You know what I mean? And that led down a bad path, because like I said, it's when that doctor read out the drugs that were in my system, I told him I don't do that. He said, well, I don't know what you do. He said, but this is what's in your system. So you know what I mean? At the age of 22, I was technically pronounced dead because my heart stopped. I was in a coma for 7 days. And at this, I was only dating my first wife about a month. And that's when she gave me the option. She's like, it's either you move out the place you're at and get off the dope, or she said, we can't date. So immediately, I got out of hospital. I packed up all my stuff to where I was living, and I went and I moved in with her and her family. And for 3 years, I was good. I was clean. I can't say I was sober, but I was clean. But I was still drinking. But I was not doing any dope. Now, I was still smoking weed, but I wasn't doing any dope at all. So that's just a little bit about the way it was. You know what I mean? Like I said, I had no choice at that point in time. It's the only reason why. And now, like I said, I was clean for 3 years. I was not sober. But then after about 3 years, I started to dip in a little bit again, because I was hanging out with the boys again. and I start to dip in a little bit, and then a little bit here, and oh, that's okay. Go through the night. Next day, boom, nothing. Be good for you for a couple of days, and a couple of days go by, be on the beer again, and the next thing you know, I just get a little bit. You know what I mean? Go get a little bit, then get on the go. Next day, wake up, boom, go on again for a couple of days, not do nothing, and I did that for a little bit, and then it became twice a week. Pick up a little bit. Then it became 3 times a week. I pick up a little bit. And then it became 4 days a week, 5 days a week, 6 days a week. Now I'm doing it every day of the week again. And back into full-fledged addiction. And at this point in time, I was hiding it from my wife, my first wife. I was hiding all this from her. She knew I was drinking, and she had assumptions and this and that, but she never ever could catch me. And like I said, later on down, after my story is told, I can come back and I can start telling all these little stories about stuff that happened in between. But for this right now, we're just going to keep on prolonging along. But yeah, I will be in the end of this going back and telling some of these little short stories of about what was happening and this and that. It's just, there's a lot that can happen in a lifetime, and we don't realize it. But there's a lot that we do, and it's a lot that we don't do in a lifetime. And I never ever thought of it before myself until I got clean and sober. Now I think back about it, I'm like, wow, how much time did I waste my life in drinking and doing dope? And you know what I mean? And it's like, oh man, like I could have been doing this, I could have been doing that. I never finished school, you know what I mean? Because of it. It was so hard to hold on to a job. Yes, I'm really good at my work or what I do, but you have to be there all the time. You have to be on time all the time. You know what I mean? And that was not me. I was that guy. I consider on time when I get there. You know what I mean? And that's just the way it was for long as well. But I did have some places that I worked at that allowed me to come and go as I please. And it really turned me into an unreliable person for other people and other jobs, because I got so used to it and felt like, well, they're only going to do what I say anyways and do what I do. You know what I mean? And it was allowed. You know what I mean? And then, like I said, I was high every day at work. At least a 6-pack of beer at work every day was getting drank. The bosses didn't know. My family didn't know. Some of my friends knew, but now they were only the ones friends that worked for me. That was it. Other than that, there was not a lot of people that knew exactly what I was doing. I was really good at hiding what I was doing. And because after getting clean and sober for 3 years and I got back into it, I called what I learned was control. I learned how to control the buzz. Did not get caught. Was I high? Yes, fucking right, I was high. Man, I was loaded drunk, but I would not get caught because I learned how to control it, and I knew exactly what to do to get what buzz that I needed so that nobody could tell the difference. And like I said, life's going on. Like I said, it just got to the point where I wasn't getting high and I wasn't getting drunk anymore. You know what I mean? So now we're coming up into my mid to late 20s, and it was just a continuous party time all the time. You know what I mean? Every goddamn weekend we were at the bar. For sure we were at the bar every weekend. And then, like I said, during the week, when everybody else would be calmed down, this and that, I would still be drinking at least 2 dozen beer every day and the dope every day. You know what I mean? And this went on for quite a long time. It got to the fact to where other people around me who were not into drugs or anything like that, that I got them into it and hooked on it. And yes, I blame myself a lot for a lot of people getting into it and this and that, but some people that were really close to me got into it, and it really affected our relationships and friendships and everything with each other. And because it was just, like I said, when we are high and drunk, we are selfish people. We are completely selfish over everything. Now, I always say to people, like, it is not about what I did, it's what I'm doing now. And yes, that makes sense right now because now I'm doing the right thing and I'm doing well. But back then, I did a lot of wrong. I was stealing. I was fighting. I was drug dealing. And I was also a very active user. You know what I mean? And all that is a recipe for disaster. It affected my work life. It affected my family life. It affected my relationship. It affected my friendships. And it just generally affected my mental health a lot. Now, back then, I didn't realize it, how much it affected me. But now, looking back on everything, I do realize how much it drugged me back and how much it weighed me down to the point to where, like I said, I was not functional. I always thought I was a functional addict and a functional alcoholic, but now looking back about it, I was not functional. Not one bit was I functional. You know what I mean? Like you said, when you can't keep a job, keep friends, or keep your family around you at the same time, all because of your habits, you think you would click in and say, hey, listen, some things need to change. But would I let it change? No, I would not. There's a lot of stuff that went on in between these years, you know what I mean? There's so much stuff that went on. It's some of the stuff I'm not very, very proud of, so I don't even really want to talk about it, but there is a lot of stuff that went on that I don't mind people hearing. Like, we used to be out robbing the beer trucks, you know what I mean, all the time. You know what I mean? And just sell the booze and have our own free booze. You know what I mean? We were robbing drug dealers. We were robbing stores. You know what I mean? We were doing everything we can. I remember one time with one buddy of mine, we were out behind a car dealership and we had the master lock nut. So we were taking all the 20-inch rims, brand new rims of tires off the back of all the trucks and selling them for $1,800 a set. You know what I mean? There's just stuff like that. It's you think back now about it, like, what the heck was I doing? You know what I mean? And it just gives you a little bit of open-mindedness to see, you know what I mean? Yes, I knew it was wrong what I was doing, but was I still doing it? Yes. There's a lot of stuff that we know that is wrong that we still continue to do, but that's all a part of our addiction and alcoholism. It's all a part of the disease, the allergy to it, you know what I mean? The stuff that it makes you do. You will go to your lowest of lowest and morals that you will never ever think, and you will always say, oh, I'd never do that. But yeah, yes, you will. We have all destroyed our own lives in some ways and other people not. And that's why I like to look up to the people that haven't. There's people out there that are doing very well for themselves and that can drink, you know what I mean, and do drugs a little bit and they manage their lives. But I'm not one of them people. So I can't be at that, you know what I mean? So this brings me into, like I said, my late 20s, going into my 30s. And so we'll talk more about that and probably on the next video and this and that while I work on the bike some more. But for now, for this one, I think that's good enough to where we are, because we went over after I moved out on my own to my early 20s, down to my late 20s, going into my early 30s. So yeah. So one thing, guys, like this, always remember, it is possible. It is possible to get clean and sober. It is possible to turn your life around and go forward. So once again, guys, Polly B of Sober Mean to C.C.B.C. Thanks for watching.